Cache. The word cache means a hiding place, especially one in the ground, for ammunition, food, treasures, etc. Lane's mother wouldn't let her listen to rock bands because she thought they would influence her badly. After a while, Lane decided that she would need to create a cache in which to store her rock CDs. By lifting the floorboards in her room, Lane found the perfect cache to hide all her music. Cache, hiding place, hoard.
The word cadaver means a dead body. Medical students who want to study surgery should expect to practice some procedures on cadavers instead of live patients. These cadavers come from people who have asked that after they die, their bodies be donated to science rather than buried or cremated. If you think about it, there's really no way to study human anatomy without the use of medical cadavers. Another example is, some cadavers have been sent to the medical examiner in the morgue who performs autopsies to figure out the cause of death. Cadaver, deceased body, skeleton or remains. The word cajole means to persuade with flattery or sweet talk. The salesman tried every trick in the book to cajole the woman into buying his weight loss product, but she couldn't be persuaded. The man tried sweet-talking her and even flattering her, all in hopes of making a sale. Unfortunate for him, the woman saw through his cajoling and realized that his product was nothing more than a fake and wouldn't really help her lose any weight. Cajole, persuade with flattery, to sweet.
Caliber. The word caliber means a person's ability or level of excellence. Not everyone can be of the same mental caliber as Einstein. In fact, very few people have been able to rise to his level. A person of such mental caliber is a rare person indeed. Caliber, a person's ability or level of excellence. The word callous means indifferent or insensitive to other people's feelings. It might sound callous, but I don't care if he is homeless. He's not sitting with me, said the heartless rich man. His callous words clearly hurt the poor man's feelings, and he went away dejectedly. Callous, indifferent, insensitive.
Callow. The word callow means immature or inexperienced. Many teenagers want to be treated like adults, but they really are callow youths. They often lack the experience and maturity to make good decisions or take responsibility for themselves. As much as they would like to be adults, teens are still callow youths. Callow. Immature, inexperienced, young.
The word calorific means something or someone who produces heat. The calorific quality of the solar panels meant that the family could meet much of their everyday energy needs, including heating the house, running small appliances, and warming their water. The heat-generating roof panels saved the family a lot of money on their energy bill each month. Some of the neighbors have asked about the calorific panels and wonder if they are worth the cost of installation. Calorific, heat generating. The word camaraderie means loyalty and friendship among a group of people. The book club's camaraderie ensured that the members never missed a gathering. The members found that the friendships they were creating by the group were more important than the actual books they were supposed to read. In fact, many of the club members came to the meetings for the simple camaraderie and hadn't even read the chosen book. The other members didn't seem to mind, and they liked the friendly atmosphere too. Camaraderie, friendship, or fellowship.
Canard. The word canard means a false report or story, a hoax. John was clearly not happy upon learning that a couple he hardly knew had spread canards about him, telling other people that he beats his wife and lives on her money. Not only was John angry, but he wondered why people spread lies. Why spread such canards about someone you don't really know? Canard, a false story or hoax. Candid. The word candid means honest in what one writes or says. When Linda asked how she looked in her new dress, Russ couldn't help but offer a candid reply. It is not in Russ's nature to be guarded in his opinion, and he truthfully told Linda that he thought her dress was ugly. Russ probably should learn to be less candid in his answers, especially to spare someone's hurt feelings. Candid, honest, truthful.
The word candor means the straightforward or quality of being fair, honest, and frank. Eva's mother had always been known for her candor and could be counted on to be forthcoming with opinions and advice. However, Eva was not sure she liked the honest, straightforward advice her mother offered the other day when she suggested that Eva was too harsh with her child. When it comes to parceling out advice, Eva doesn't mind her mother's candor, except when it criticizes her approach to raising her own child. Candor, straightforward, fair, and honest.
The word cantankerous means cranky, unpleasant, or hard to get along with. The cantankerous old man sat on his porch and yelled at the neighborhood kids. Fluffy is a cantankerous cat, and the dogs are actually afraid of her. I'm not trying to be cantankerous, but I really don't feel like staying at this party too much longer. Cantankerous, unpleasant, hard to get along with. The word canter refers to the movement of a horse that is slower than a gallop, but faster than a trot. When Sally took her first riding class, she was very nervous when her horse broke into a canter. She was afraid that the horse might start galloping any second. She kept reminding herself that this horse was trained to move only at a moderate pace and would not go faster than a canter. Canter, a moderate. Canvass. The word canvass means to go through a district, asking for votes or attempting to determine public opinion. When my father decided to run for mayor, my entire family canvassed the neighborhood, going door to door and asking people to vote for him. In the weeks just before the election, a reporter from the local newspaper canvassed the neighborhood again, asking people who they were planning to vote for in November. The polls showed that my father was a favored candidate, but in the end, he didn't get quite enough votes to win. Canvass, to poll, to survey. Capacity. The word capacity means the ability to contain, absorb, or hold, the content or volume of something, a specific role. Donovan's car had a gasoline capacity of 20 gallons. The other day he tried to put additional gasoline into his tank and it overflowed. The tank could only contain a specific amount of gas, and by putting too much in, he surpassed its capacity. Another usage is, in his capacity as the school principal, Mr. McGregor is responsible for making the master schedule of classes, maintaining the budget, and seeing to student discipline. Capacity, the amount of space, content, or volume. Capsize. The word capsize means to overturn or flip over. Canoes are easily capsized in the rapids. They are long, hollow boats which require a careful balance in the water. If they get caught against a rock or turn sideways in fast-moving water, there's a good chance that the boat will capsize, turning you and all of your belongings upside down in the river. To keep from drowning, remember to stay with your canoe. The boat will remain afloat, and if you hold on tight, you will too. Capsize. To overturn. To flip over.
Captious. The word captious means objecting to something or being critical of something. The captious father, instead of congratulating his son for getting excellent marks, asked why they weren't all 100%. Encouraging children to do well and appreciating their efforts actually has a positive impact. Captious remarks bring nothing but bad feelings and low confidence in children. Captious, critical, objecting to something.
The word careen means to sway or lurch sideways, especially while moving rapidly. The winding road nearly caused Davis to careen his car into the ditch. But if his car had gone a few more feet, it would have careened into the nearby rocks and probably been demolished. Davis vowed not to drive so fast again, especially on such dangerous roads. Careen, to sway or lurch sideways.
Caricature. The word caricature means an exaggerated imitation, often in a cartoon or picture, with often humorous distortion of characteristics. Comedy shows like Saturday Night Live are famous for the caricatures of famous stars and politicians. They routinely imitate the President of the United States or other important figures and make fun of their appearances, speech, or mannerisms. The show's many caricatures are so well done that it is sometimes difficult to distinguish the real person from the actor. Caricature. Imitation, often in a cartoon or picture. Carnage. The word carnage means a bloody and extensive slaughter, especially in battle. The battlefield was littered with the carnage of war. All around lay the dead bodies of soldiers who shed their blood in defense of their people. The carnage showed just how ruthless the enemy was in their pillaging and conquering of new lands. Carnage. Bloodshed, slaughter, massacre.
The word carnal means related to the body as opposed to the spiritual. It also means having to do with sexual experience. Derek kept his carnal interest in Joanne to himself. He was afraid that if any of his friends knew he found Joanne attractive and was interested in her, they would tease him mercilessly. He would have to keep his carnal desire for Joanne hidden until he mustered enough nerve to talk with her and finally ask her on a date. Another usage is, for many philosophers, the carnal word is not as mysterious or complex as the spiritual realm. Carnal, related to the bodily pleasures.
Carousal. The word carousal means a noisy, merry celebration, usually involving excessive eating or drinking. After the evening's carousal, the college students were unable to wake up in time for class. Their all-night partying left them tired and nauseous. Because they missed class, the students started wondering whether partying all night is really worth the trouble it causes afterwards. Carousal. Noisy drinking party. Celebration.
Castigate. The word castigate means to criticize or punish severely, especially to correct a behavior. Little Johnny's father castigated him for accidentally breaking the bowl. Even though Johnny apologized over and over again, his father continued to criticize him for being so clumsy. Johnny vowed not to let it happen again because he did not like his father castigating him so severely. Another example is, The drill sergeant castigated the recruit for disobeying a direct order by making him hold a squatting position for 10 minutes. This punishment ensured the recruit would never step out of line again. Castigate, to scold harshly.
Casual. The word casual means relaxed or informal. The office party had a casual atmosphere until the boss showed up. People suddenly felt they needed to be serious and make a good impression. As soon as he realized people couldn't be casual around him, he made up an excuse and left the party. All the guests were secretly glad he was gone because they wanted to have fun without him around. Casual. Relaxed. Informal.
The word cataclysm means a disaster, great upheaval that causes sudden and often violent changes. Large waves assaulted the tiny village as the cataclysm continued to rage through the night. In the morning, people began to inspect the damage from the tsunami and found their small town was destroyed. Not only had their homes been tormented by brutal winds and water, but their crops had been ruined by the storm's violent blows. The townspeople wondered if this was the end of the cataclysm or if another weather tragedy was set to strike. Cataclysm, a disaster, a tragedy.
Catastrophe. The word catastrophe means a great, often sudden calamity. There were so many stray cats in my neighborhood that I tried to start my own animal shelter, but it was a catastrophe from the start. In the first place, I didn't have a proper place for them to sleep, so all 27 of the cats stayed with me in my bedroom. In a matter of hours, the smell was unbearable, and all of my blankets and pillows were torn to shreds. Some of those cats were feral. I released them back into the street and decided I was lucky that no one else knew what a catastrophe my plan turned out to be. Catastrophe. Disaster. Calamity.
The word categorical means absolute, direct, without conditions. The mother's categorical love for her newborn child was evident in the way she held the small child. She promised herself that no matter what her child did or said, she would love her without conditions. The mother's categorical affection and absolute support for her child will form a strong foundation for helping her child grow up into a reasonable and noble adult. Categorical, absolute, direct, without conditions.
Cater. The word cater means to supply what is wanted or needed, to furnish food for an affair. The man loved his cat so much, he catered to the cat's every desire. He fed his cat a bowl of milk every morning and a fresh fish every night. In the afternoon, he set down soft pillows in the sunlight and read a book while his cat took a nap. On the cat's birthday, he invited all the neighborhood cats over for a party. Instead of baking a birthday cake, he catered to the taste of the animals and provided a giant platter of tuna fish with a candle stuck right in the middle of it. Our office holiday party is going to be a very grand affair, and the office manager has hired one of the best companies in town to cater the food for it. Cater. To supply. To provide.
The word catharsis means a release of tensions or purifying of the emotions. The ballerina found the catharsis she experienced after finishing her performance was uplifting. Each night as she performed her dance, she could feel her tensions release and her strong emotions come forth, causing her to cry. The cleansing event occurred every time she took to the stage and danced for the audience. Over time, the ballerina's performance also became a catharsis for the audience. Catharsis. A release or cleansing. The word Catholic means universal, of a general scope or wide-ranging. Dion could be described as having a Catholic approach to sports. He didn't specialize in one particular sport, but pursued many different ones. From the time Dion was a small boy, he moved from playing basketball and football to soccer and baseball, all with simple ease. He even embraced running and tennis. He had a universal interest in all sports, but his Catholic love of sports sometimes interfered with Dion's ability to concentrate on homework. He would prefer to watch the game on television than finish his math problems. Catholic, universal, wide-ranging. The word caucus means a meeting of leaders to decide on policy, pick candidates, etc. Caucus also refers to a specific faction of the larger gathering. The Democratic Black Caucus met during the Democratic National Convention to discuss issues specific to their interests. However, when not meeting as a group, the black leaders attended policy sessions of the larger convention and discussed important political matters with their fellow delegates. By the end of the convention, not only had the Black Assembly endorsed Barack Obama for president, but the entire Democratic caucus had thrown their weight behind the candidate. Caucus, a meeting of leaders to decide on policy, pick candidate. The word causal means relating to cause and effect. The small mouse failed to appreciate the causal link between taking the cheese from the trap and the metal handle snapping on his leg. However, the more the mouse tried to take the cheese from the traps placed around the house, the more it began to piece together the cause and effect relationship. Soon, the mouse learned the causal nature of the traps and began to avoid them altogether. Causal, relating to cause and effect.
Caustic. The word caustic means capable of burning or eating away at tissue by a chemical action. It also means cutting, biting, or sarcastic. When the scientists used sulfuric acid in their treatment, they produced a caustic reaction. The chemical compound ate away at the cell phone left on the table. The caustic mixture had to be carefully disposed of so that it wouldn't harm anything else in the laboratory. Another usage is, David's caustic remark to his lab partner about mistakenly pouring acid on the cell phone put a strain on their friendship. Caustic, cutting, sarcastic, biting. Cauterize. The word cauterize means to seal a wound. The soldier's injury was very bad, and the wound had to be cauterized. If emergency action was not taken, he could have died. The medic had cauterized the wound just as quickly as he could. Cauterize. To seal a wound.
The word cavalcade means a procession, such as of horsemen and carriages. During the annual 4th of July parade, Josh led a cavalcade of horses and carriages down Main Street. The large procession spread out nearly 3 blocks and slowly moved down the parade route as the spectators cheered wildly for Josh and his cavalcade. He continued to entertain the crowd as the group marched along. Cavalcade, a parade
caveat. The word caveat means a forewarning, stipulation, or requirement. The scientist offered a final caveat in his speech about the dangers of global warming. He warned if governments continued to ignore the signs of global warming, that many of the Earth's glaciers would melt and mass flooding would occur. His caveat about global warming worried many of the people in his audience and stirred them to action. Caveat: warning, caution, or stipulation.
The word cavil means to complain, to find fault unnecessarily. Tim's girlfriend had a habit of always finding something to cavil about. Even when he took her out for a quiet romantic dinner, her unreasonable complaining successfully spoiled his good mood. He just wished he could stop his girlfriend from finding something to cavil about, at least for just a few hours, and let him have his dinner in peace. Another example would be, if you always do a sloppy job, you can expect your boss to cavil about your work ethic. Cavil, to complain.
Cede. The word cede means to give up control of something to someone else, or to agree to someone else's position or demands. After watching cartoons for hours, Cecilia finally decided to cede control of the remote to her older brother, who had been trying to convince her to change the channel. "Okay, it's your turn," she said. "We can watch whatever you want to see." Cede, to surrender, to give up.
The word celibate means related to avoidance of sexual activities, or unmarried. Roger had vowed to live a celibate life until he married. However, his new girlfriend made it difficult for him to remain chaste. No matter how Roger explained his choice of celibacy, his girlfriend didn't seem to understand why he wanted to remain pure for his wife. Eventually, Roger had to break off the relationship because she didn't respect his decision to stay celibate. Celibate, avoidance of sexual activity.
Censurable. The word censurable means deserving of condemnation, judgment, or strong disapproval. Congress found the senator's racist remarks censurable and proceeded to publicly condemn the statements. After the senator made his bigoted comments, the rest of the politicians immediately showed their strong disapproval of him. The senator apologized for his remarks and vowed never to make such censurable statements again. Censurable, blameworthy, culpable, wrong.
The word chafe means to wear away by rubbing, or to warm by rubbing. It also means to irritate or annoy. Ray's hands are so chafed from him rubbing them together to stay warm that he's going to have to put lotion on them to repair the skin. On cold days like this, it is important to wear gloves to protect your hands from windburn or frostbite. But Ray forgot to bring his gloves with him and is now suffering. The freezing temperatures are irritating Ray's skin, but his attempts to keep warm by chafing his cold hands seems to be working. The word chafe also means to irritate or annoy. For example, Eric tried to enjoy his ice cream cone, but a tiny fly kept chafing him. The fly would buzz past his head every time he moved to lick his ice cream. Eric tried swatting at the fly to get it to stop bothering him, but the fly kept circling his head. Eric soon realized that if he wanted the fly to quit chafing him, he would need to go inside the house to eat his ice cream. Chafe, to rub or scratch, to bother or annoy. The word chaff means waste or debris. The word can also be used as a verb, meaning to tease good-naturedly. As the artist continued to work on his sculpture, a large amount of chaff accumulated on the floor around him. By carefully chiseling at the wood, the artist chipped away at the material to shape the wood into a figure of a stallion. The extra debris from the sculpture fell to the ground and quickly grew to a large pile of rubbish. By the end of the day, the chaff around the artist's studio had to be swept up and disposed of in the trash. Another usage is, the two comedians chaffed one another throughout the entire performance, much to the delight of the audience. Chaff, waste or debris, to tease good-naturedly. The word chagrin means a feeling of embarrassment or annoyance. Much to Chuck's chagrin, when he reached the grocery checkout, he realized he had forgotten his wallet and couldn't pay for his groceries. As his humiliation grew, Chuck tried to think of what to do to get out of the embarrassing situation. Chuck apologized to the grocery clerk again and again for his mistake, but the grocery clerk's growing chagrin was as evident in her face. Chagrin, feeling of embarrassment and annoyance.
Chary. The word chary means being very careful about danger. The high wire walker was very chary as he made his way along the tightrope. He must maintain perfect balance, or he would fall, and he would not have a net. Being extremely chary is always wise when you take part in any dangerous activity. Chary, cautious about danger.
Chasten. The word chasten means to discipline or punish. When Gerald failed to show respect for his coach by talking out of turn, the coach knew he had to chasten him so Gerald would behave properly. He chastened Gerald by making him do 100 push-ups before he could join the other players for practice. The coach knew he had to chasten him so Gerald would behave properly. Gerald definitely wasn't going to talk out of turn again after that kind of punishment. Chasten. To discipline. To reprimand.
The word chastise means to discipline, to criticize sharply, or to scold. After our dog dug a giant hole in the yard, I chastised her for at least 20 minutes. If a teacher isn't willing to chastise her students once in a while, they'll think she's a pushover. Vince's sister chastised him for not doing his chores. Chastise, to criticize sharply, to scold.
Chattel. The word chattel means possessions, personal property. When the Andersons were going through their divorce, it took a long time to divide their entire chattel. During their marriage, they had accumulated numerous items like artwork, furniture, clothing, computers, and other personal property, and now they had to divide it equally. The Andersons' chattel was so excessive that it took nearly a month for them to agree how to split it. Chattel, personal property, possessions.
The word chauvinist means one who has extreme devotion to one's gender, race, country, etc. Around the office, Tyler was known as a chauvinist male, always making comments that mocked his female co-workers. His latest statement about women only working as secretaries surprised even those who were familiar with his sexist ideas. No matter how much Tyler's co-workers ignored his bigoted comments, he continued to express his chauvinist beliefs to anyone who was within earshot. Chauvinist, sexist, extreme nationalist. The word chimerical means imaginary, fantastic, or absurd. Many of the unsuspecting visitors were duped by the chimerical mermaid on display at the carnival. Her skin and scales appeared real to the crowd, but in fact were completely fake, created by the carnival owner to attract more customers. As the carnival goers crowded around the display, everyone seemed to enjoy the fanciful mermaid and was taken in by the chimerical creature they believed to be genuine. Chimerical, imaginary, absurd. The word choleric means having or showing a quick temper, irritable. The waitress was the unfortunate recipient of the old man's choleric outbursts. He threw his mug at her, complaining bitterly that she had brought him bad coffee. She was taken aback by his sudden rage and quickly ran to bring him a new cup of coffee to try to calm his anger. Unfortunately, the old man continued his choleric mood, arguing with the waitress and complaining about the food throughout his entire meal. Choleric, quick-tempered, irritable.
Chronological. The word chronological means arranged in the order of occurrence. Robert's parents created a timeline that listed momentous occasions in Robert's life in chronological order. Because it was done in chronological order, Robert's birth naturally came first on the timeline. The next big event that happened chronologically was Robert speaking for the first time, and then Robert started school. Chronological, consecutive, sequential.
The word churlish means one who is mean and rude or grumpy. The uncooperative gorilla put his trainer in a churlish mood after refusing to obey any of his orders. No matter how much the animal trainer tried to coax the gorilla, the stubborn ape wouldn't budge. The grumpy trainer responded to the gorilla's bad manners with annoyance as the gorilla continued his churlish behavior. Churlish, mean and rude. The word chutzpah means shameless, boldness, arrogance, and nerve. Jack showed a lot of chutzpah when he grabbed the young woman by the arm and tried to kiss her. He didn't even know who she was, and his audacity surprised many of his friends who watched the scene unfold. The woman's reaction to Jack's boldness was nothing short of shock. She couldn't believe the chutzpah it took Jack to try to kiss a complete stranger. Chutzpah, shameless, bold.
Circuitous. The word circuitous means roundabout, indirect, or devious. Rather than driving his passenger straight to the airport, the taxi driver took a circuitous route that wound through the city. The indirect route took more than an hour to complete and caused the passenger to miss his flight. If the taxi driver hadn't taken such a circuitous path to the airport, he would have arrived on time for the flight. Circuitous, roundabout, indirect, devious.
The word circumlocution means wordiness, a way of speaking that uses too many words. The mayor was known for the circumlocution of his speeches, which were long and boring. Bud got right to the point, without any circumlocution. The circumlocution in this essay doesn't hide the fact that you really have nothing to say. Circumlocution, wordiness. Citadel. The word citadel means a fortress that commands a city and is used in the control of the inhabitants and in defense during attack or siege. The citadel of Sable City sat upon a foreboding tall hill above the city. The citadel was designed to appear foreboding and powerful, since it was a symbol of Sable City's defense during times of attack. Luckily, the city rarely came under attack, so the citadel seldom had to be used for controlling defense. Citadel, fortress that commands a city. Stronghold.
The word clamor means to climb with effort, unusually clumsy. The lizard clambered up the wall frantically, trying to find a way out of the house. Earlier, the creature had scaled the side of the house and crawled inside through an open window. Now the lizard was clamoring to find that same window to make an escape outside and scramble down the house to freedom. Clamor, to climb with difficulty.
Clamor. The word clamor means a loud noise or outcry, such as a shout, demand, or complaint. The clamor of the environmental protesters drowned out the mayor's speech about building new factories in the city. The noise was so loud that eventually the mayor could no longer ignore the protesters. Amid the protesters' clamor were calls to the city government to save the trees and stop factories from polluting the water any further. Clamor, an uproar, often in the sense of protesting or objecting to something. Clandestine. The word clandestine means kept hidden or secret, usually for a dishonest purpose. To keep her affair with her gardener hidden from her husband, Laura set up clandestine meetings for them. Rather than get together at her house, they would meet in secret at out-of-the-way restaurants to spend time together. These clandestine meetings went on for many years without anyone knowing. Clandestine, hidden, secret, furtive.
Clangor. The word clangor means a constant and sharp ringing or clanging sound. At the recent World Cup soccer events, the loud horns blowing by the fans created an enormous clangor. The constant ringing and buzzing sounds that the horns created was nearly deafening to the players, referees, and fans. Some of the fans even complained about the clangor created by the horns and asked that they be banned from the stadium. Clangor. Ringing sound.
Clarification. The word clarification means the act of making an idea, statement, etc. clear or intelligible, to free from ambiguity. No matter how hard Joan tried to understand the math problem on the board, it made no sense to her, and she knew she needed some clarification on how to solve it. Everyone else seemed to understand, but she was totally lost. She was very relieved when the teacher stopped writing and explained the equation, giving her clarification on the problem. Clarification, making an idea clear. Explanation, amplification. Clarity. The word clarity means clearness, intelligibility, lucidity. The lake was characterized by extreme clarity. The water was so clear that everything that lived underneath it could be seen easily by anyone who looked. If the Loch Ness Monster had to choose a lake to live in, it would not be this one. It had too much clarity. Any monster living underneath the clear waters would be spotted too easily. The clarity of the teacher's explanation of the difficult equation made it much easier for the class to understand. Clarity, clearness, lucidity.
The word cliché means an idea that's been repeated too much. Riley thinks she's being original, but her ideas tend to be nothing more than old clichés. I know it's a cliché to say the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree, but when it comes to loving golf, Bryce is exactly like his father. Michael is a good poet who avoids the usual clichés about love and beauty. Cliché, overused expression. Cloy. The word cloy means to sicken with too much of something that is usually pleasing. Too much food at lunch had cloyed Tom's appetite, and now he couldn't even look at the large dinner his wife had prepared. To make things worse, the garlic-oregano seasoning on the turkey was very strong. Tom was simply going to have to skip dinner, because the rich aroma cloyed his senses to the point where he couldn't even think of eating anything. Cloy. To sicken from too much of something. Clutter. The word clutter means a jumble or a disordered state. My mother's house is a mess. There is clutter everywhere. As soon as I walk in the door, I notice things that need to be picked up and organized. She has so much mail on the kitchen counter that she can't use it for cooking. Really, there's more clutter than anywhere else I've ever seen. Clutter. Disorder. Jumble.
Coagulate. The word coagulate means to thicken into a mass, to clot. To bake a proper muffin, a cook must make sure the batter coagulates. The liquid must be poured into a mold and cooked at just the right temperature. After the batter has coagulated, a perfect muffin is the result. Coagulate. To thicken. To clot. Coalition. The word coalition means an alliance or union for some specific purpose. A coalition of doctors and nurses headed to Haiti to help care for the many people affected by the massive earthquake. The doctors and nurses formed a partnership to pool their talents and resources in order to help as many people as possible during their mission. They realized that a coalition of medical help could get more accomplished than if they went as individuals. Coalition, alliance, union, partnership. Coerce. The word coerce means to force or compel someone to do something. David coerced Steve to sign his consent to allow David to drive the brand new Ferrari. Steve was surprised, but agreed to sign the document, and David happily took the car for a ride that afternoon. Without being coerced, Steve probably never would have trusted David with his Ferrari. Coerce. To force. To bully.
The word coiffure means a way of styling the hair. Hairstyle. On her wedding day, the bride's coiffure was accented with flowers and a ribbon. She had spent all morning styling her hair into a perfect coif that she would reveal to all the wedding guests when she walked down the aisle. To make sure that her coiffure stayed in place during the ceremony and late into the reception, the bride used a lot of bobby pins and hairspray. Coiffure. Hairstyle.
Coincide. The word coincide means to agree or concur, as in thought or opinion, to correspond exactly. Leslie and Lynn's opinions on fashion always coincided. They often bought and wore the exact same clothes, since their tastes coincided so perfectly. To them, their coinciding opinions were something to be celebrated and enjoyed. Coincide. To agree. To correspond exactly. Collaborate. The word collaborate means to work with another or others on a joint project. To cooperate. Tessa and her mother wanted to collaborate on a big project together. Feeling that her bedroom needed to be spruced up, Tessa suggested that she and her mother collaborate on painting the walls a new color. Tessa's mother thought it was a great idea, and the two had a lot of fun collaborating on the project. Collaborate. To work with others. To cooperate. Collate. The word collate means to gather together in proper order. Before distributing a packet of information to her students, the U.S. history teacher collated each of the pages to create an orderly and complete packet. She gathered all of the pages together and assembled them into a packet of information to help the students further understand the subject they were studying. By collating all of the pages of information, the teacher provided each student with a collection of orderly and practical information about the history of the United States. Collate. Collect, gather, assemble.
The word commandeer means to take something by force or to force someone into military service. The military general commandeered recruits off the street to aid the nation's latest war efforts. With fewer men and women volunteering to join the military, it became necessary to force them to enlist. By commandeering recruits in person, the general soon had gathered a large number of soldiers for his troops. Commandeer. To force into military service.
Commemorate. The word commemorate means to serve as a memorial to someone or something, to honor or venerate someone. There are several monuments in America that commemorate important political figures in the country's history. The Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. commemorates the life and presidency of Abraham Lincoln. The statue of Lincoln commemorates his dignified and imposing appearance. Commemorate. To memorialize. Honor.
Commensurate. The word commensurate means to be proportionate to in size or correspond in extent. Any recognition of your achievements will be commensurate with the effort you put forth. As Bill gazed at his certificate, he was very proud. Such an award was truly commensurate with all the hard work he had done the past year. Commensurate. Be proportionate, appropriate.
Commentary. The word commentary means explanations or notes on something. Mrs. Williams wrote a commentary on each student's essay. She wanted to provide meaningful comments and critiques so that the students could know how to improve their writing. However, the fact that her commentaries were all done in red pen had the effect of scaring some students into not even reading anything she wrote, for fear that it was all criticism. Commentary. Notes. Explanations.
Commiserate. The word commiserate means to sympathize with, to show sorrow for, or to offer condolences. Michelle tried to commiserate with Emily after her friend accidentally broke her rare collectible doll. While reassuring Emily that everything would be okay, Michelle sympathized with her sadness over ruining her very valuable doll. In the end, all Michelle could do was try to console her friend. Commiserate. To feel or show pity, or to console.
The word commodious means offering plenty of room or space. Aaron tried to disguise the commodious nature of the living room by spacing his furniture throughout the entire room. However, this simply highlighted how spacious the room really was. Instead of putting his furniture in the corners of the expansive room, Aaron should group the chairs, sofa, and other pieces together in the middle, creating a pleasant area to watch television and entertain guests. Then, as he continues to accumulate additional furniture and decorations, he can try to turn the commodious area into a cozy space. Commodious: large, roomy, spacious.
Commodity. The word commodity means a useful item or product for sale. Such a commodity as fresh produce is always available at your local grocery store. Fruits and vegetables provide a good source of nutrition for us all. Be sure to visit your local market for the very best commodities that may be available there. Commodity: useful products or goods for sale.
Compact. The word compact means to pack closely together, consolidate, condense. Bobby was trying to compact all his items together so that they would fit in his suitcase. Although he was able to get his clothes to fit by bunching them up, compacting his laptop proved to be an impossible task. Compact: to pack together, consolidate.
Complacent. The word complacent means being self-satisfied and uncritically pleased with one's circumstances. George was complacent about his growing tummy and watched TV all day, which angered his active wife. George had also become complacent in his job after years of success, so he never sought to change his career. Complacent people seldom improve their condition, since their will to make things better has essentially died. Complacent: self-satisfied, uncritically pleased with oneself. Complacent. The word complacent means willing to please or oblige. No matter what Mrs. Carter asked her chauffeur to do, he was always very complacent. Even after she asked him to carry all her shopping packages back to the car for the purpose of returning them to the stores, he happily agreed to the difficult task. It is in his nature to be complacent with his boss and try to anticipate everything she needs. Complacent: willing to please or agreeable.
Compliant. The word compliant means tending to obey. Charlie has always been a compliant employee. No matter his opinion on a project at work, he always yielded to his boss's ideas. Even when there was no reason to be submissive, Charlie still tends to go along with his boss's lead. Charlie's compliant personality means he never stands up and defends his own opinions and ideas. Compliant. Obedient. Yielding. The word comport means to conduct oneself in a particular way. It also means to agree or be appropriate. Elizabeth's parents taught her to be courteous and well-mannered, and to comport with the rules when she was at school, the library, or at someone else's house. When she behaved and followed the rules, Elizabeth felt good about herself. She didn't always comport with school policies, though. Last week she tried to bring her kitten to show and tell, and the teacher reminded her that animals weren't allowed in the classroom. Another example is, you need to comport yourself with dignity if you expect people to take you seriously. Comport. To behave appropriately.
Compress. The word compress means to make something more compact, so that it takes up less time or space. In order to compress an entire week's worth of English classes into the day before winter break, Mrs. Jones realized she would either have to give the lesson at warp speed or leave out a lot of the material. She decided to talk fast. Compress. To compact. To pack.
The word concerted means mutually arranged or agreed upon, coordinated. The moving company made a concerted effort to pack all of the family's belongings with care. The two movers coordinated their movements when moving large pieces of furniture, like sofas and tables, to ensure that nothing was damaged. In the end, the workers' collaborative exertion resulted in a stress-free move for the family, who truly appreciated the movers' concerted work. Concerted, coordinated, mutually agreed upon.
Conciliatory. The word conciliatory means making peace or attempting to solve a dispute through goodwill. The conciliatory efforts of the pacifist neighbor helped end the fight between children. The word can also be used as, even though John and Maureen were on different sides of the debate, they discussed the issues in a conciliatory manner. The conciliatory comments from the teacher brought the class discussion back on track. Conciliatory, attempting to solve a dispute through goodwill. Conciliatory means making peace or attempting to solve a dispute through goodwill. The conciliatory efforts of the pacifist neighbor helped end the fight between children. The word can also be used as, even though John and Maureen were on different sides of the debate, they discussed the issues in a conciliatory manner. The conciliatory comments from the teacher brought the class discussion back on track. Conciliatory, attempting to solve a dispute through goodwill.
Concise. The word concise means brief and to the point. It always helps when a teacher can offer a concise explanation of how to solve a mathematical problem. Instead of spending extra time elaborating on insignificant details, a teacher should be succinct and to the point when trying to clarify difficult concepts or processes. The more clear and concise a teacher can be in his explanation, the more likely the students are to understand. Concise, brief, and to the point. Conclusion. The word conclusion means the end, last part, or finish. At the conclusion of the concert, the performers took a final bow before leaving the stage. But the audience didn't want the show to end, so they continued clapping for an encore. The performers returned to the stage for one more song before the final conclusion of the show. Conclusion. The end, the last part, the finish. Concoct. The word concoct means to devise, invent, or plan, to make by combining various ingredients. The military leaders met to concoct a new strategy for the war. They needed to invent a new plan that would improve the results in the areas and help reduce the casualties. By concocting a new war strategy, the military leaders hoped to put an end to the fighting more quickly. Another usage. The wizard concocted a love potion made up of various ingredients like eye of newt and toadstools. Concoct. To devise, invent, or combine.
The word concomitant means existing along with something else, accompanying, or associating with it. I believe that golf caddies are more than simply concomitant helpers during a round of golf. Their expertise and experience makes them a much-needed resource on the course. If more golfers realize the true value of a caddy, perhaps caddies might be viewed as more than a fanciful accessory. Unfortunately, most golfers don't ask their caddy for advice. Instead, they only ask the caddy to accompany them around the course, not realizing the caddy is more than a concomitant aid on the links. Concomitant, accessory, associate.
Confer. The word confer means to consult together, to discuss a particular topic. The knights at the Round Table loved to confer on just about any topic they could think of, when they needed a second opinion on an important issue. They would congregate and confer on that particular issue. Also, when they just felt like chatting, they would confer on everyday subjects that sparked friendly debates and discussions. Confer. To consult together. To discuss. Confront. The word confront means to face, especially in challenge. Roger was always the smallest kid in class, and he was used to being picked on at school. But after an unexpected growth spurt, he decided it was time to be brave and confront the biggest bully in school face to face. Roger said to him, "Meet me out front after school. I've got something I want to say to you." Confront. To face. To oppose.
Congenial. The word congenial means agreeable in tastes and temperament. The two college freshmen soon established a congenial friendship after learning that they had much in common. With the same tastes in music, movies, and sports, it was easy for the two young men to create a friendly and amiable rapport, even though they were surprised at how congenial they were. Congenial. Friendly. Having same tastes.
Congruent. The word congruent means being consistent or in agreement. The discs were perfectly congruent. All features were in perfect alignment. Each appeared to be a mirror image of the other. They reflected the fine craftsmanship necessary to produce products that are congruent with one another. Congruent. In harmony, matching.
The word connubial means the state of being married. The connubial celebration was the perfect start to the young couple's life together. Friends and family gathered to honor their matrimonial love, first with a nuptial ceremony and then with a festive reception. By the end of the night, it was clear to everyone in attendance that the couple's love was deep, and their connubial commitment to one another was strong. Connubial, state of being married.
Conscript. The word conscript means to force into service for the government or to enroll in the armed forces. Jason tried everything he could to get out of joining the army, but he inevitably was conscripted into service. It didn't matter how much Jason protested, he was drafted into the armed forces and was sent to boot camp. Once Jason was familiar with the routine of being in the military, he didn't really mind being conscripted into the service for the government, and, in fact, was proud of his military duties. Conscript. To draft into military.
Conserve. The word conserve means to preserve or save something. Always paranoid and always wanting to be prepared for the worst, Barry decided to conserve food for his family in case they ever needed it to survive. However, he needed to make sure it would keep for more than a short time. Dealing with the smell of conserved, rotten food might be an emergency situation all its own. Some things are simply not meant to be conserved for long. If you're going to run a marathon, you need to learn how to conserve your energy. Conserve. To preserve. To save.
Considerate. The word considerate means having feelings for others and their feelings, being thoughtful. Lester has always been considerate toward other people. Yesterday he helped an elderly woman load her grocery bags into her car, and today he was thoughtful enough to mow his neighbor's lawn without being asked. Lester rarely thinks of himself first. He is so considerate. Considerate. Thoughtful. Consign. The word consign means to give something to another. We were very confident when we consigned our package to the postman. We knew he could be counted on to deliver it with speed and care. Always be careful, though, when you can consign anything to anyone, and only do it with someone you can trust. Consign Give something to another.
Consign. The word consign means to place in someone else's care. While the cookout was going on, the dog was consigned to the kennel so she wouldn't eat everyone's food. The word consign also means to hand something over or to set something apart. Another usage example is, "That paper was so badly written, I wish I had consigned it to the trash can instead of handing it in." Heather knits a lot of sweaters and scarves, which she consigns to several local shops who then agree to sell them for her. Consign, to place in someone else's care.
Consolidate. The word consolidate means to bring together separate parts to make a unified whole. Unite. When building his house out of Legos, Drew knew that he would have to consolidate many different Lego pieces in order to create the house. He had already consolidated many pieces to build most of the house. All that was left for him to do was to make the roof, and he began by consolidating 3 red pieces that look like bricks. Consolidate. To unify. To unite.
The word consternation means a great fear or shock, causing helplessness. The scene outside Sam's window gave him great consternation, as he realized the storm had developed into a raging tornado. Sam momentarily felt distressed by the weather's violent turn, but he soon pushed aside his alarm, regained his composure, and leapt into action. He gathered up all of his family members and pets, and moved down into the basement to take shelter from the tornado. As he and his family huddled together, Sam did his best to calm his family's consternation over the fierce winds and pelting rains. Consternation, great fear or shock.
Constrain. The word constrain means to restrict severely, to prevent. Most artists would agree that coloring books constrain a child's creativity. Instead of offering children a blank page to fill with their own original visions, coloring books control the imagination and train children to color inside the lines. Since the houses in this neighborhood are built together so closely, and parents were concerned about balls breaking windows, they constrained their children from playing softball in the street. Constrain. To limit. To restrict. Contemptuous. The word contemptuous means full of contempt, showing total dislike. Whenever our class starts to get out of hand, our unfriendly teacher, Mrs. Fox, gives a contemptuous look that shows she does not approve of our behavior. Her scornful glances reflect her extreme dislike of children. Perhaps teaching elementary school isn't a good career for someone with such a contemptuous attitude toward children as Mrs. Fox. Contemptuous, full of contempt, showing total dislike.
Contiguous. The word contiguous means touching along all or most of one side, adjacent, or adjoining. As the fire spread from Carly's apartment, it soon reached each of the contiguous apartments on her floor. From her kitchen, the smoke and fire spread to her neighbors' apartments on each side of her, doing damage to their units. When the fire was finally put out, Carly's apartment and the 2 contiguous apartments were completely destroyed. Contiguous. Adjacent. Neighboring. Adjoining.
The word consonance means moderation, abstinence, or self-restraint. Chad's strong consonance was evident when he refused to join his friends at the local gentlemen's club. His morals did not allow him to participate in those sorts of activities. Despite his friends' efforts to convince him to join them, Chad's self-restraint stayed strong. He believes that by abstaining from many of the vices other people enjoy, he is healthier physically, mentally, and spiritually. His continence keeps him balanced and in control of himself. Continence, self-restraint, self-control.
Contraband. The word contraband means goods forbidden by law to be imported, unlawful or prohibited trade items. Anyone entering a foreign country is asked if they are carrying any contraband. Sometimes tourists don't realize that they are carrying goods that are illegal to bring into a country, such as fruits, vegetables, or an animal. In addition to checking your passport, customs officials also look for contraband being brought into the country. Contraband, illegal imports, smuggled goods.
Contrite. The word contrite means remorseful, sorry, or regretful. After losing his beloved wife, Tony was a contrite mourner at the funeral. His regret over accidentally causing his wife's death was clear to everyone who saw him that day. A contrite Tony knelt at the grave of his wife, crying in anguish over her untimely death. Contrite, sorry, regretful.
Contrive. The word contrive means to plan with cleverness or ingenuity. The beekeeper contrived to harvest honey from his bees without getting stung, so he devised a scheme. He built a brand new beehive in the center of a garden filled with blooming flowers and waited for all the bees to relocate to the new hive. When the old hive was empty, he collected the honey without a single sting. Contrive. To plot, to devise.
Controversial. The word controversial means pertaining to or characteristic of a controversy. Debatable. Joe wrote a very controversial book entitled Math is Fun. The subject was controversial for his classmates because most of them disagreed with his assessment that math was indeed fun. Joe didn't care if his book was controversial. However, the debate surrounding it only made it more fun and exciting for him as the author. Controversial. Debatable.
The word contumely means an act or statement that offends someone's pride or sense of dignity. Harsh treatment. The businessman hurled a contumely at the homeless man, suggesting that the homeless man was not worthy of sharing the park bench with the businessman. His insult was nothing new to the homeless man, who had heard his fair share of abuse from the community. What the poor man really wanted was for people to realize that he was trying to better himself, and that their contumelies really wounded his spirit. Contumely, rudeness, harsh treatment.
Conviction. The word conviction means a strong belief in something or a determination. James had practiced every day for the race and had developed his conviction that he would win, which was so strong it pushed him to run harder and faster. All of his hard work and confidence paid off in the end. James won first place in the meet. His teammates performed well too. James showed such conviction in himself throughout his training that he inspired his teammates to work harder. Conviction, certainty, faith, confidence.
The word convivial means being fun-loving, festive, or joyful. The annual celebration featured convivial street performers and dancers dressed in costumes. The audience cheered wildly for the entertainers' joyful performances, hoping to see more dancing from the fun-loving troupe. By the end of the night, everyone who attended the celebration left with a convivial feeling that lasted well into the next day. Convivial, fun-loving, joyful.
Cooperation. The word cooperation means a joint effort toward a common purpose. With a bit of cooperation, the politicians could get the financial bill passed. By working together, the groups reached their goal and passed the important legislation. Through the cooperation of both political parties, the bill will now move on to the President's desk for signing. Cooperation, joint effort, combined work.
Cope. The word cope means to deal successfully with or handle a situation, to manage. Alicia had never gotten an F before that fateful day when she received a failing grade on her math test. At first, she was devastated and thought that she would never be able to cope with such a failure. However, she decided that she would cope by working extra hard and studying nonstop so that she could do better on her next test. She coped with getting the F by making sure it would never happen again. Cope. To deal successfully with a bad or uncomfortable situation. To manage.
Cornucopia. The word cornucopia means abundance or a large amount of something. As the Thanksgiving holiday grew near, we were assured of having a virtual cornucopia of food. We eagerly anticipated our visit to Grandma's, for there we would eat and eat until we could eat no more. The pumpkin pie, the turkey, and all the fruits and vegetables would simply overflow the table. We would be provided with a cornucopia of all that's fresh and tasty as we celebrated the holiday in style. Cornucopia, a lot of something.
The word correlation means a relationship between two things. There's a strong correlation between Randy's mood and the amount of coffee he drinks. After looking at the numbers, it seems there's no correlation between salary and overall happiness. Michelle's parents urged her to see the important correlation between education and success in life. Correlation, relationship between two things. Corroborate. The word corroborate means to confirm or support the validity of, to strengthen. The defense lawyer questioned a witness that could corroborate his client's alibi. The witness was able to confirm the defendant's whereabouts at the time of the crime and prove that the defendant didn't commit the crime. By corroborating the defendant's alibi, the witness could help the lawyer get the case against the client dismissed. Corroborate. To confirm, to support. Cosmopolitan. The word cosmopolitan means having an interest in or being familiar with many parts of the world. Multicultural. Caroline was a very cosmopolitan woman. She had always been cosmopolitan by nature because she had been interested in different countries since she was little. When she finally got the chance to travel the world, she developed a truly cosmopolitan perspective from living in many diverse places. Cosmopolitan, worldly, multicultural, diverse. Coterie. The word coterie means a small group of people with similar interests. Bob and his friends formed a close coterie. Whether it was going to the movies, watching TV, or something else, they always did everything together. Being a part of such a coterie can be very enjoyable. Coterie, a small group of people with similar interests.
Countenance. The word countenance means appearance, especially the look of or expression on a face. Kendall loved trying out different countenances to see how she would look. She took photos by herself in the photo book so that she could see how her various expressions turned out. This time, she experimented with a silly countenance, a shocked countenance, and a happy countenance. Countenance. Appearance. Expression.
Counterfeit. The word counterfeit means made in imitation so as to be passed off fraudulently or deceptively as genuine, not genuine, forged. Michelle had never created counterfeit money in her life. She was always genuine and honest, and she would never try to pass off fake money as real money. However, the cashier was paranoid and decided to check with a magnifying glass to make sure the money Michelle gave her was not counterfeit. Counterfeit. Fake. Forged. Covert. The word covert means a covered or protected place or shelter. If you are ever in the wilderness during a big storm, it is important to find a covert in which to shelter yourself from bad weather. A covered shelter, like a cave, will keep you dry and out of the cold or windy weather. Taking refuge in a covert during a violent storm can be the difference between life and death. Covert. Shelter.
The word cow means to make one timid by filling with fear or to frighten. Tom was cowed when he returned home from work to find a message scrawled across his door that threatened his life. Whoever had left the intimidating words had meant to frighten Tom so much that he would refuse to walk through the front door. The threat worked. Tom was cowed by the evil message and didn't dare open the door. Cow. To frighten. To terror. The word cower means to shrink or tremble from fear. As Stephanie walked toward the exit, a dark shadow suddenly appeared, causing Stephanie to cower in the corner. Trembling with fear, Stephanie let out a loud scream and cringed in place, hoping the ghost-like shadow would disappear. Her friends heard her shrieking and came running, only to find Stephanie cowering near a wall with her hands covering her eyes. Cower. To shrink or tremble from fear.
Coy. The word coy means behaving in a shy manner, hesitant to reveal information. It also means to be flirtatious. When Todd asked Molly to marry him, she played coy and didn't answer yes right away. Instead, she told him that she would think about it. Her behavior confused Todd because he thought she would immediately agree to his proposal. It was unlike Molly to be so bashful and coy. Coy, reserved, shy, or very modest.
Crass. The word crass means grossly stupid or dull, tasteless, and insensitive. When the comedian made a crass remark about women, the audience didn't find it funny. In fact, the audience booed his tasteless and insensitive joke. The comedian went on with his jokes, not realizing that the crowd was upset by his crass humor. Crass. Tasteless. Insensitive.
The word craven means very cowardly or fearful. Brandon didn't realize how craven his friend Andy was until he suggested they go see a new horror film at the local cinema. Andy reluctantly agreed to see the film, but when he got to the theater he began to shake with fear. Brandon tried to reassure him that there was nothing to be afraid of, but Andy refused to see the scary movie. Being a good friend, Brandon suggested they see a different film, one that was more appropriate for his craven friend. Craven. Very cowardly. Fearful.
Credulous. The word credulous means tending to believe too readily or easily convinced. Riley always had a credulous nature, believing almost anything people told him. His gullibility sometimes caused him to trust people who were only trying to trick him. Just the other day, Riley encountered an old man who claimed to foretell the future. Our credulous friend Riley quickly sought to learn his future from the man, even paying a large amount of money to hear his fortune. Credulous. tending to believe easily, trusting.
The word crestfallen means disappointed, disheartened, or feeling low. Little Maggie was crestfallen when her ice cream cone dropped to the ground. She had been looking forward to the treat all day and was now disappointed that she wouldn't be able to enjoy her dessert. Maggie's mother couldn't stand to see her daughter so dejected, so she told Maggie she could order a new ice cream cone. Maggie's crestfallen mood quickly changed to happiness as she scrambled to order a new treat. Crestfallen, disappointed, feeling.
Cringe. The word cringe means to shrink in fear or distaste. When he was found hiding behind the door in the girls' bathroom, Chris cringed with embarrassment, blushing crimson and trying to hide his face. The janitor might not have noticed him there, except that the door had a squeaky hinge. Cringe. To flinch, to recoil, to shrink back.
Cryptic. The word cryptic means being hidden or having a mysterious or obscure meaning. Suzanne was confused by the strange man's cryptic request to buy just one jelly bean. The mysterious gentleman approached Suzanne's kiosk and asked to buy a single piece of candy. She wondered what sort of cryptic reason the man would have for wanting only one jelly bean. Cryptic, hidden, mysterious.
Culminate. The word culminate means to end, especially to reach a final or climactic stage. Every school year culminates in a graduation ceremony. After many months of learning, testing, and studying, the students come to the end of the academic year. The senior class congregates in the auditorium, where speeches are made and diplomas are handed out to the students one by one. At the height of the excitement, the graduates toss their hats into the air, and the ceremony culminates in applause. Culminate, to end, to finish, to climax. Culprit. The word culprit means a guilty person or someone responsible for an offense or crime. The cat burglar had been stealing milk from grocery stores for the last 2 months. He was the culprit all the policemen were trying to catch. Fortunately, one policeman caught the culprit red-handed, or red-pawed, when the criminal feline tried to steal yet another carton of milk from the local supermarket. Culprit. Person responsible for a crime.
Cultivate. The word cultivate means to grow crops or prepare the soil for growing something, to nurture. Our plants can be cultivated properly if we tend to them with proper care. We must prepare the soil and be sure plenty of fertilizer is used to have them grow and flourish. Once we show proper attention, we can cultivate our plants and reap the rewards of growing our own food or simply growing things for our enjoyment. Cultivate. To grow crops. Nurture.
Cumbersome. The word cumbersome means hard to handle or deal with due to size or weight. Sonny found moving his furniture into his new apartment to be very cumbersome. The oversized couch barely fit through the doorway, and the kitchen table was so heavy that he almost dropped it on the ground. After only an hour of moving his things, Sonny finally gave up because it was too cumbersome and decided to call some friends to help him. Cumbersome, hard to handle. Curtail. The word curtail means to cut short, to reduce, or to abridge. Volunteers and officials are trying to curtail any further oil from coming on land. After the large oil leak in the Gulf of Mexico, the government began efforts to reduce the amount of oil spilling into the water and washing ashore. The current efforts to curtail the oil spill haven't been completely successful. Some oil continues to land onto the beach. curtail, to shorten, reduce, abridge.
Customary. The word customary describes what is commonly done. It was customary for the custodian to sweep the hallways in the afternoon after the students had gone home for the day. But one day he decided to break his custom and get an early start. Unfortunately, the students got in his way as they walked through the halls, and he ended up sweeping them all into a big pile. The students were not accustomed to being swept off their feet, and all of them complained to the principal. Customary, common, usual, habitual.
Cynical. The word cynical means bitterly or sneeringly distrustful, contemptuous, or pessimistic. Ever since Gwen broke his heart, Bruce became very cynical about all matters relating to romance. His new cynical perspective made him agree with people who say that Valentine's Day is just a holiday made up by greeting card companies to increase sales. He was so cynical, he even threw out the Valentine that Mariana, a girl who was genuinely interested, gave him because he didn't want to get hurt again. Cynical, distrustful, contemptuous, pessimistic.
The word cynosure means a person or thing that is the center of attention. Visitors to Paris are attracted to the city's greatest cynosure, the Eiffel Tower. Every year, more and more tourists visit the brilliant attraction, which stands at the center of the metropolitan area. And visitors who look out at the city from the top of the tower are treated to a magnificent view of Paris. If you're ever able to take a trip to France, you have to make a stop at this great cynosure of Paris. Cynosure, center of attention, a point of attraction. The word dabble means to do something lightly, superficially, or not seriously. Timmy dabbled in his chores while thinking about his friends who were playing football down the street. He half-heartedly splashed water on the car's hood to make a good show of effort. As he lightly spattered the car with water, he hoped his dad would think he was taking his work seriously. In reality, Timmy was simply dabbling at washing the car and waiting until his dad turned away. That was when he was going to go join his friend's football game. Dabble. To do something lightly, superficially.
The word dapper means very neatly and fashionably dressed.